Hi, I'm John Herrick, and I took a lift somewhere.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith in unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from an overheated studio, this is Left of the Valley. My name is Kevin, and I don't know what Armageddon is, but I'm sure it's not the end of the world. Joining me as usual is a team who wonders if amphibians need to wait an hour after eating to get back in the water. She went to garage sale, now she has enough space to park 5 cars. Nancy.
Oh, 5 cars and a motorcycle.
That was a garage sale. And he got into a Canadian fight, and a hockey game broke out. Scott.
Good time.
And she went to her neighbor to borrow a cup of money because she wanted to buy some sugar. Christina.
For my coffee.
For the coffee. Guys, welcome back. Hope you guys had a good week. And you guys enjoying the smoke out there?
Oh, it's wonderful not being able to see like 30 feet away from you. I feel like I'm in China. I don't need to travel.
Apparently, it's actually worse.
Yeah.
It's actually worse than what they are experiencing in Beijing and all these. But the difference is, this is a forest fire. It's not like industrial pollution.
Yeah.
No, I think we were what, 7 out of 10 in our area, and some areas north of us were 47 out of 10.
Kamloops was 49.
Pictures of Kamloops is the sky is brown.
Well, they couldn't see across the street.
Yeah,
like they literally couldn't see across the street, right?
Yeah, for our listeners that are outside of Canada and British Columbia, the entire province is pretty much on fire, and they haven't pinpointed the source yet. Some people are saying it was human cause. Others think it's lightning, but
well, I think different fires have a lot of different causes.
I think right now they're talking about 100.
There's
so
fires. Many fires.
A lot of fires.
Yeah, it's over 130.
And you can actually see the smoke from outer space.
I know some of the causes. I see people driving around here, and you never see it. You never ever see people driving around with a cigarette hanging out the window until it's forest fire season. And then I've 3 this week. I've seen them with their hand out the window, cigarette hanging in the hand.
Don't they have like places to put it in the car?
No, because that would damage the resale value.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
and cars don't have ashtrays anymore.
Just buy your own ashtray and install it.
Don't tell them how to smoke. They've been smoking their entire lives. They don't need you telling them how to do it.
Yeah, but how they're doing it is causing forest fires.
Yeah, it happened on Wacom Road, right by the exit there. There was this week I was driving by, and the fire department was there putting out a grass fire.
Oh wow!
Another cigarette toss out the window. Please, people, be careful about this. We can't really afford to burn the planet.
Yeah.
Did you guys... today we're going to be talking to Rhonda Tyson. She's the wife of our friend Randy Tyson of the Legion of Reason. And we're doing an interview about her because she had an experience being a nurse in Ghana. Being an atheist nurse in Ghana. So if you think you've got religion pushed in your face, wait till you hear her story. But first, let's do a bit of chit-chat. Did you guys, some research from MIT says that if nothing is done to stop climate change, parts of South Asia will become too hot for humans by the year 2100. And they're talking about Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, etc.
I wonder what the temperature has to be too hot for humans.
Oh, I think it's a constant 35 plus degrees Celsius.
They've already experienced it in a few countries, like Iraq last year. In Iraq and Iran and places like that.
Yeah, they had like a 53 degree.
Yeah, there was people trying to crawl under cars to get into shade because there's no shade.
Wow.
There's no, and
they don't have tons of tall trees.
They were literally dying because they were baking under the car. It was like being in an oven.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, sometimes here in Canada we'll experience times where it gets so hot that the asphalt is kind of soft.
I remember seeing that as a kid. I remember seeing the tire marks that my dad's car left as I looked out the back, because we didn't have to wear seatbelts then. And looking out the back window and watching the tire marks on the asphalt. Yeah.
Did you guys hear there's a rise in illegal border crossings right here in Canada? This is near Champlain in Quebec. This is due to the Trump administration cracking down on illegal immigration, and there's a bit of an issue because in 2010 there was an earthquake in Haiti, And the U.S. responded by granting some temporary immigration to these to about 50,000 Haitians.
Yeah.
And now with the Trump administrations, these Haitians actually feel and fear they're going to be deported, and some of them are coming across to Canada, especially in the province of Quebec. So right now in January, for example, of this year, the RCMP intercepted 245 asylum claimants.
Wow.
Now they number in the hundreds per day.
Oh, I heard about that.
Wow.
So those, of course, including families with infants.
Yeah, I just heard a report on that this morning from the, I think he was the head of the border guard union or something. They're really having a problem. They're mostly coming over at night in the dark, and so they have to set up tents. They're trying to fingerprint everybody, and it's really becoming and it's so sad.
It's providing food for these people.
I heard
because there's no guarantee that they're going to be able to stay in Canada for any length of time either.
The Montreal, the Olympic Stadium from the 76 Olympics, I heard they just opened that up as a refuge center to house these people temporarily. There's that many people.
So that's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on. You guys remember Pharma Bro, Martin Scarelli? Remember that guy?
Oh, yeah.
He's the guy that took I don't remember the exact number, but he took a medicine that was like $7 a dose.
Was it AIDS? Was it AIDS?
Was it
drug?
AIDS? I can't remember. Anyway, a dose was like ridiculously cheap, and he jumped the price like 700%.
Oh, I remember
that
this.
idiot?
Yeah.
That idiot?
Yeah.
He was just found guilty of deceiving investors.
Good.
And now he's facing 20 years in jail.
Aw, poor guy.
And of course, the dumbass, what he does right after being found guilty is, you're found guilty, and then there's going to be another hearing to actually make it official. And in between then, he goes on YouTube and starts trash talking the trial.
Are you serious?
What an idiot. This guy doesn't understand that by doing that, he actually risks contempt of court.
Wow.
The judge might say, you know what, it just gone from 20 to 30 years. Idiot.
Exactly. He obviously feels as though he's above any law that was ever written at any time.
He doesn't care.
He's rich. I think he's going to get a lesson and how insignificant he really is once he's in prison.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping they put him in to a general
especially when
population.
some of those people are going to be affected by the drug that he hiked the price of.
Well, apparently there was people that needed this drug to live. So it was...
Exactly.
Yeah. And when he raised the price, they had him on the news, and they were asking the question, like, how can you do this? And he just basically looked at the camera. I remember that. Looked at the camera and said, why not?
Yep.
Capitalist.
No, I remember. Yeah, don't you remember the smirky look he had on his face?
Like a smug smirk.
He was comparing it to buying a Toyota.
It's like,
look, there's a difference here. People need to survive, need to live. But, this is the problem with the whole capitalist system, especially when it comes to healthcare.
See how much he smirks when Bubba decides to make him his
Exactly. The U.S. has told the UN officially that it wants out of the Paris Accord now.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we going to do now?
So the White House administration says it sends a strong message to the world.
The wrong message.
The wrong message for sure. So now apparently it takes at least a year for them the whole thing to process.
I thought it was. Is it only a year? I thought it was longer than that.
Could be a bit more, I guess, but it's minimum a year. So right now by 2018, 2019, the U.S. could be officially out of the Paris Accord.
Oy.
So
I'm just happy that the response from all the other 190 countries is to reaffirm their commitment to the Paris Accord. It's not to be like, well, America's doing it, so I'm just going to hop out of this too.
And not just other countries, cities and states within the United States also.
They're like, okay, we're going to do this on our own.
I'm betting New Orleans probably isn't on that support list for falling out of the Paris Accord.
Yeah. Well, especially when so many other countries are going to be impacted and already being so heavily impacted. Like Venice right now, people's houses are getting flooded because they're on the water. Like they've invented like these doorstops so that the high tide doesn't just flood out people's houses. So other countries are being way more heavily impacted, where they have that constant reminder that this is something that is devastating for the world.
And this administration has only been in power for 6 months.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you sure it's not 6 years? It feels like 6 years.
I know. Democracy is going to have to not totally, but it's going to have to rebuild if the Democrats take over in 2018.
Nancy, why don't you tell us how you really feel about Donald Trump? I don't think we ever heard your opinion about that.
I don't think the airwaves can take that amount
I was going to say
that amount of pounding at one time.
we've never heard Nancy swear, but I'm pretty sure if she opened up about Trump, we would hear some cuss words.
In one sense, he really isn't worth it.
Well, the problem is if you quote him, you'll be swearing.
Oh man!
Did you get Venezuela? We need to do a show about this. Venezuela is in trouble. The political turmoil that's happening out there is actually turning into a humanitarian disaster. Apparently, people are having difficulty to access for food and medicine. They talk about triple-digit inflation, political corruption affecting the President Nicolas Maduro government. We need to find somebody to talk about this. Because I think a lot of people are. This is one of those stories that's flying under the radar.
Well,
Yeah.
I listened. One of the people, news sources I listen to is Philip DeFranco on YouTube.
I
And
love him.
I know, right? He's the best, and he actually did a good piece on it. So, like, that's how I know about it. Otherwise, I would have had no idea what was going on.
Let's contact him and bring him on the show.
Totally.
That's your job.
We can bring a lookalike on the show. I have somebody at work who looks just like him.
He's got to be
Really?
informed. Nobody sees it. It's not even a visual media. Who cares? Nobody's going to know.
You
Well,
just
he
need a
almost sounds
voice
like him.
impersonator.
Do you remember our friend Tyler?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay,
Well,
Tyler- no,
I don't remember him, but
I've never met Tyler, but I've
Tyler
heard a
and
lot
Kevin.
about him.
Tyler and Kevin, the other Kevin Swansky, they started their own show.
Good for them.
It's called So You Think You're a Skeptic. And actually, they invited me to come on board as well. So I guess this is going to become maybe a sister show to Left of the Valley. So that'll be very interesting. So
definitely.
stay in touch. We'll have another show. Well, not us, but they'll be producing another show. They'll actually be doing it here, too. It's going to be live on YouTube, not YouTube, Facebook.
Oh,
Excellent.
That should be interesting.
it will, and maybe
I'll
we
never
can
get to
have them
see
on
it.
as guests at some point.
I think so. I think
Why
it
not?
wouldn't be a bad idea. Of course, the whole thing is based on they want to do essentially kind of like the atheist experience, but on a
Yeah.
skeptical point of view. I would call in and questions asked
Yep.
from the audience live on Facebook. So we wish them the best of luck, and let's hope
Absolutely.
it works. So we'll see what happens with that.
Right on.
All right, my dear Nancy.
Okay.
We're doing a Quack Watch today.
Let's do a Quack Watch today. Why not?
Quack Watch.
Oh, there we go.
Quack.
Today we're going to do one that's been not covered by us, but it's been covered by a lot of other websites, skeptical websites, quack websites. But I think it's always good for a refresher because, by the way, it's bodybuilding. And I think it's always good for a refresher because people are always getting into the I've got to improve my body mode. Mostly men, but there are a lot of women that get into the bodybuilding genre or mode as well. And there are some dangers there that aren't readily apparent. So we'll go over some of them and issue a couple of warnings at the same time.
I'm all ears.
There we go. So the Consumer Reports put out this year a caution about bodybuilding products and how risky they are. And as it turns out that when you buy supplements, they're not necessarily regulated either in Canada or by the FDA in the United States. If they get enough complaints, they will investigate them, but that doesn't mean that they're safe when they reach the market. And a lot of these products come from outside the United States and outside of Canada, and because of online marketing, they get a following, and a lot of the ingredients are not labeled properly, and so people are taking supplements that they feel are going to help enhance their health, enhance their bodybuilding, but actually they're taking supplements that lead to liver damage, cancer, and some thrombosis, and
the one pill miracle diet thing doesn't work.
yes.
Maybe we should turn my mic on.
That might help.
My turn if I'm.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Kevin? What are you doing over there?
I thought you were professional.
There we go.
Anyway.
Some of these,
Oh, Kevin, put it away. Just no more. We don't want to see it.
I guess we know where we're directing this. I know where this is being directed. Anyway, a lot of these bodybuilding products are promoted as hormone products and or alternatives to anabolic steroids. And for those of you that don't know, anabolic steroids are actually synthetic testosterone or some variation thereon, and they are used for increasing muscle mass and strength. Some of these products make claims about the ability of the active ingredients to enhance or diminish androgen, estrogen, or progesterone-like effects in the body, but actually they contain anabolic steroids or steroid-like substance and synthetic hormones that are related to male hormone testosterone. So the FDA is saying that many of these products are not dietary supplements at all. That's how they get away with it in the States. They say they're dietary supplements which aren't subject to the same rigorous standards that affect prescription drugs. So if they're illegally marketed and unapproved, the safety and effectiveness and quality is questionable during their marketing. In the end, it's the consumers who are put in harm's way by taking dangerous ingredients because they don't really realize the dangerous ingredients that are actually in the products, and because they're looking for miraculous results and following some empty promises that are told about the products. And these are people that, by and large, want an easier way to bulk up or to feel strong. They don't want to have to go through the everyday having to build muscle and having to go through all of the exercises. So some of these people who use the bodybuilding products engage in stacking. Do you know that term?
I've heard it, but I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, it's using multiple products, including stimulants or products to provide false assurances to enhance results or gains. And a lot of times these combinations put consumers at greater risk for serious and life-threatening reactions because you don't always know what combinations are going to be harmful when they're put together in your body. So if you're taking bodybuilding products that claim to contain steroids or steroid-like substances, the FDA in the U.S. recommends that you stop taking them because of the potentially serious health risks associated with using them, and that instead of taking supplements off the shelf or buying them online, talk to your healthcare professional about any bodybuilding products and any ingredients that you have taken or planning to take, particularly if you're uncertain about the ingredients. And, of course, talk to your health professional if you're experiencing any symptoms that are possibly associated with the products, especially nausea, weakness, fatigue, fever, abdominal pain, chest pain, shortness of breath, jaundice, yellowing of the skin, which is what jaundice is, or brown or discolored urine. People who are taking these substances ought to know that immediately when they feel these symptoms that they're associated with the supplements and stop. In order to find out a little bit more about these products and what they are, maybe we can put up on our website a really valuable list that was gathered by Vox. If you've heard of Vox, that's a news organization. Vox.com has listed supplements that have hidden drugs in them, and a lot of these.
You can put that in the notes of the show.
Yeah, a lot of these drugs are listed not as anabolic steroids, but as different things, and so they've compiled a really good list with symbols for the different supplements. Some of the supplements are bodybuilding, and some, have to do with anxiety, and some have to do with others. So if you just put the symbol in on the Vox website, when you follow the link, it'll tell you which products that you actually need to avoid. And some of these actually are cancer causing. That doesn't mean that they will affect everybody with cancer, but the danger in them is so great that you need to know what the names of these products are and what the sneaky name of the anabolic steroid is that's in them. So that's one thing. Other than the testosterone boosters, there are other ingredients that people need to be aware of if they're going into these supplements that they think are going to help their bodybuilding. One is L-glutamine. And that's been a staple part of bodybuilding for decades. A lot of bodybuilders swear by it, but it's an orally consumed glutamine, but it never makes it to your muscles at all, and it instead uses energy by your intestines. So the percentage will vary, but into your intestines it's about 65%, but it really doesn't do a whole lot for bodybuilding.
You can do bottle building too. That's completely different.
Yeah.
Bottle building, yes.
That's the 8-ounce curl, you know?
Yeah, actually, about 10% of your total protein intake is already made up of L-glutamine. So if you're consuming 200 grams of protein a day, you're already taking in 20 grams of L-glutamine right there. And that doesn't mean that if some is good, more will be better. So it's best not to include that in your intake. L-arginine, which is a nitric oxide booster, that's another one that is based off of different forms of amino acids, but it's a good one for the dishonest supplement companies since it's dirt cheap ingredient and it can be easily added to pre-workout formulas. But as a consumer, there's zero research showing any positive relationship between L-arginine supplementation and increase in nitric oxide or muscular performance.
Yeah, the nitrous oxide is what they call the NO, which gives you that pump. You know, when you have that, you have your veins kind of dilate a bit and gives you that big pumped up look.
Yeah. But it doesn't work. So right there, you're a victim of marketing, which is what the supplement companies want you to be a victim of marketing. Weight gainers, there's nothing inherently wrong with consuming a weight gain powder in controlled amounts. Just keep in mind that all they really are is a basic mix of whey protein and simple sugar. And a far more nutritious and better tasting option is to purchase whey protein powder on its own and then blend in your own carbs and healthy fats if you want to do that. But oatmeal, fruit, natural nut butters, and healthy oils are all great options to that. Advanced forms of creatinine. Creatine. There we go.
Creatine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the most widely researched and most result-producing muscle-building compound in existence. It's been widely used by bodybuilders and athletes since about the mid-90s, and it's commonly sold in the form of creatine. Creatine. Okay. Monohydrate.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, good. I did.
Wow.
Finally got one I can pronounce. Whoopee. Over the last decade, companies have been releasing new breakthrough forms of creatine that are supposedly more effective than the original form. But don't let the marketing hype fool you. Not a single study has ever been performed that has shown any of these advanced form of creatine to deliver any benefits above and beyond the monohydrate form. Then there are other dishonorable mentions, HMB, methoxy, hardly any of them are pronounceable, but very readable. If you can't read it and pronounce it, don't take it. That's basically it. Waxy maize, chromium picoleate, D-ribose, low-quality protein bars, growth hormone boosters, and DHEA. So wrapping it all up, if you want to save a good chunk of money and divert it to things that will actually benefit your bodybuilding program and your life, people who in the know, the FDA, and I think Health Canada too, recommend that you steer clear of these supplements as they're likely doing nothing more than thinning out your wallet. So we'll put
I can attest to that.
Yeah, so we'll put that Vox on for everybody. And then there's another really good one that wraps this up. Consumer Reports lists 15 supplement ingredients to always avoid. And we'll put the link on for that. There's no need to have to go through all 15, but we'll put that on our website. And hopefully people that are taking supplements will take a more science-based approach do a good diet, good exercise, and talk to their health professionals before they jeopardize their health and empty their wallet on supplements that will do more harm than good.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Nancy. And this is kind of shows the need to be skeptical in all parts of life, right? For example, I mean, I'm always in the gym. You guys know that. But you hear stuff like, and I'm not saying that, having personal trainers is a bad thing. It's a good thing. But you also have to be skeptical of your own personal trainer. For example, I was watching a personal trainer that was having this female customer. And, of course, she's just been through her workout, and she's pumped, right? She's really pumped. And they took measurements, right, of this woman. So, of course, her muscles are pumped. They're a bit... I mean, even if I do an arm day, I do a good arm day, I'll gain half an inch, almost 3/4 of an inch on my arm. And this is only for a couple hours, and then it goes back to normal. And that's that pump they call, right? So they take measurements on her, and then when she comes back the next day for her next session, they measure her again, but now she's back to normal. I say, oh my God, you've lost half an inch on your waist. Good for you. It's used as a selling tool, right? So always there's nothing wrong with a good personal trainer. Just be very skeptical of what you do, even in any aspect, even when it comes to health and training.
Yeah, I think not being as acquainted with this as you are, when you have a trainer, should you sit down with that trainer and say, what supplements do you recommend?
Absolutely.
What training, so that you get an idea of where they're coming from, and if they're do the trainers sell these supplements themselves so they make money on them?
It depends on the outfit. If you get an independent personal, but if you go into a brand name gym and they have their own personal trainers, it's part of their job to upsell as well, right?
Yeah.
Never be afraid to ask questions and challenge what they're saying, What do you think about such and such research? What do you think about this and this? And their answer, if you don't find the answer doesn't ring a bell to you or something like that, look it up. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that works.
All right. So anyway, moving on.
I nominate Nancy for...
personal trainer?
No, because of all the big words she's using and the fact that she's so smart, I think she should be our planetary... she should apply to NASA now. And well, you have American citizenship.
If I was a 9-year-old boy, I would.
Yeah, planetary protection officer. I think she fits the bill.
Nobody's going to know what the hell you're talking about except the 5 of us here. So
that's right.
Why don't you explain it now to the audience?
All over the news.
Well, I didn't know about it.
People are not necessarily watching the news. You might as well explain it now. You just...
Oh, well. So NASA has apparently opened up a new job, and I think Nancy fits the bill. This job
I don't know. My competition is pretty fierce.
This job has something to do with protecting the planet from returning spacecraft against microorganism infestation. Now, I'm thinking, I haven't read into it too far, but I'm thinking what they mean is microorganisms that we accidentally sent on the spacecraft and they come back changed because of the radioactive environment, right? So this guy...
The Mutant Ninja Turtles have returned.
Yeah, this person's job is going to be to come up with plans and make sure that things are operating properly. What a title, though. Nancy, you fit the bill.
I know, but now say who my competition is.
Well, a 9-year-old in the States applied for the job and told them of his extensive... he wrote to NASA and told them of his extensive experience with video games and the movies he's watched. NASA actually replied. The directors from NASA actually replied to the child with a very very nice form letter, and then they called him after to thank him for his application, which I think is really cool because it promotes, maybe this kid will get interested in science and get interested in space and get out there and actually do something with his life.
Okay. But for him, I'm not going to apply. I think that's the best applicant.
But
that's
I think
the best
you'd be
applicant
awesome
possible.
at the job, Nancy. It's like Men in Black, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now that you steered the show completely in the ditch.
I like that one. That's good.
Can we get back to the schedule here? What we're supposed to be doing?
That's our new...
Oreo cookies.
That's our new segment, Dead in the Ditch with Scott.
Oreo cookies.
Let's do the things that make you go,
Uh-oh.
Did you guys hear about this story that surfaced claiming that the first American attempt to make genetically modified viable human embryos was a success?
Yes,
I've heard
I
about
read
it,
about
but I
that.
didn't
I read
read the
about that.
article.
At the time, details were sparse. CRISPR, which is a groundbreaking gene editing technique, was employed, and the embryos were terminated after a few days. Now, the most tantalizing missing detail revolved around the type of editing that took place. Supposedly, the team, that was led by researchers at the Oregon Health and Science University in Portland, edited out a series of genes linked to an inheritable disease. At the time, the disease in question wasn't revealed, but now we know that it's been the disease in question is a type of heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Whoa.
Fantastic.
What is that?
It's a disease that often kills otherwise perfectly healthy people. It's just like your heart decides to just give
Yeah.
up all of a sudden, and there's no warning really.
And you wouldn't probably be able to tell you had it until you're dead.
Yeah, it's often symptomless until death suddenly visits the individual, and which makes it particularly dangerous to leave undiagnosed, right? So the disease main effect is to thicken the muscular wall, the myocardium, to a point where it becomes stiff. Although with treatment, most people can live ordinary lives. And it's a surprisingly common condition that can lead people getting anything from an irregular heartbeat to experiencing sudden cardiac arrest.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah,
So they edited these genes out of the embryos.
Yeah.
that's right. So although this is at least the second attempt in the world to modify genetically viable human embryos using CRISPR, this study represents the first successful attempt to remove a disease in vivo.
Very cool, but scary at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's of course these people right away are there's going to be a moral debate about this.
Oh,
obviously.
totally.
I mean, obviously, the people involved in the study, in the experimentation, are being ethical because they were looking at a disease. Can we stop this disease in its tracks? But yeah, where do you stop? Do we want, what do they call that? Babies. Do we want to
Designer babies?
Designer babies. Designer babies.
Well, I think there's a difference between removing a disease and starting to make sure your baby's got blue eyes. There's a difference there, right?
Is there?
I think so.
Well, one is going to affect the long-term health of a kid.
Right.
human.
But we have a guy who took people who were getting a medicine that was perfectly cheap that they needed to live on and raised the price 7,000% just because. So is it really that far out to say
this
I
is-
want designer babies?
This is the distinction between.
Oh, I definitely think that it's that if left unchecked would be an end
Yeah,
result.
Scary.
But I think there's enough, people are enough aware of that end road that it can be closely watched and guided in a good direction.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of instances where scientific research has led to the discussion of the slippery slope, and people are always afraid of the slippery slope. And I can't think of any, and maybe you can, but I can't think of any examples offhand
Dolly.
where something that required ethics and morality, in the decision making, suddenly, fell aside, and and people just slid down, and unethical practices or designer babies were actually, agreed upon as being, the norm. I think there are ethical and scientific barriers to prevent that.
I don't think there are, because right now, if you have a genetic disease and a company, say in California, has studied that genetic disease and then thrown a patent on the gene they found, you cannot be treated unless you go through them, because your gene that is faulty or flawed or the mistake is now patented by them and they own it. And you are not allowed to manipulate it in any way, shape, or form, even though it's killing you.
Why are you pointing at Christina? She's perfectly healthy.
I'm just saying, I'm using this.
I wouldn't say
I
perfectly
need
healthy.
visuals to think, right? I have to be able to point at people. So they're already doing this in an unscrupulous way because it's your genetic material, and yet they patented it and they own it, even though you were alive before the patent.
I'm optimistic enough to think that if a company does, and I agree that's certainly happening, but that's what the courts are for, and I have a feeling that things like that will eventually be challenged and it'll straighten itself out.
And this is, of course, assuming that we're talking an argument of science versus economics too, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is assuming that we'll always human civilization is always going to stay in this unfeathered capitalism model, which I don't think is going to be the case. Eventually, I think we'll have to actually get out of it. But that's just my opinion. So, I mean, if the system always stayed like this, I could totally understand that slippery slope argument. But science for the science sake itself this is good news. This is actually good news.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you're right.
And now comes the question.
I'm just scared to death. That's all.
I could see one notch on the slippery slope being what diseases do we cure? Because there are some things that are intrinsic to a person, like autism. People look at it and are like, well, that it's like a horrible disease, but then also that is a defining characteristic of a person. And sometimes autistic people love who they are. And so, like, in that situation, would you edit that out of a person? And so I think stuff like that will come in as well.
Slippery slope.
Yeah.
Blue eyes. Blonde hair.
Well, that leads to all kinds of interesting nuances in that there's an autism spectrum, and there are ways of detecting, I think, or there will be ways of detecting, the most severe forms of autism versus Asperger's, and then the
So
moral ethics will come in terms of which, at what point can you edit out or take out the severe autism and leave in the Asperger's? So it's...
but then you have to figure out where that line is.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm also going to disagree with you guys because if you get somebody with autism, you say people love themselves. They learn to love themselves, obviously.
They do.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody out there would wish to actually have autism if they could actually have the magic wand and not have it.
I'll give you the nightmare scenario. What if they find the Trump gene? And then they decide that they want to edit people so that they vote for Trump.
Just look for orange hair.
I think what we have is a science fiction movie in the making here.
Yeah.
We just have to work a little bit on the script, and we've got it made, right?
Coming soon to
Coming
a theater
soon.
near you. The making of Trump. Dum, dum, dum. All right. Well, let's go to commercial, and we'll be right back with Rhonda Tyson, and I'm a nurse, atheist nurse in Ghana. Stay with us. Interested in a particular topic? You ever wonder where we find all this information?
The Common Sense Canadian is a forum for critical discussion of the key issues shaping our world today: water, energy, food security, and how we manage our resources to the public benefit while preserving our environment. So go to commonsensecanadian.ca. It's uncommonly sensible.
What is secular humanism?
Critical thinking.
Knowledge is freedom. Freedom from ignorance and its offspring, fear.
The BC Humanist Association has been active in the Vancouver area for over 25 years. We offer a friendly and welcoming place to make new friends, as well as free educational lectures. We invite you to join us any Sunday at 10 a.m. in the Oak Ridge Senior Center. Please visit our website for more details, bchumanist.ca.
Nine million children die every year before they reach the age of 5. Any God who would allow children by the millions to suffer and die in this way either can do nothing to help them or doesn't care to. He is therefore either impotent or evil. But this, to me, is the true horror of religion. It allows perfectly decent and sane people to believe by the billions what only lunatics could believe on their own. If you wake up tomorrow morning thinking that saying a few Latin words over your pancakes is going to turn them into the body of Elvis Presley, you have lost your mind. But if you think more or less the same thing about a cracker and the body of Jesus, you're just a Catholic.
Okay, joining us online is Rhonda Tyson, the wife of Dr. Rhonda Tyson, from our old friend from the Legion of Reason. Rhonda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, my pleasure.
I've always asked, because our audience is going to want to know, is you are obviously the brains behind Rainy, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, go ahead. Don't be humble. We've guessed it all along. Just fess up, girl.
Randy's not here to defend himself. That's not fair.
Well, that's why we're doing this.
Rhonda, you had a very interesting experience I want you to share with our audience. You are a nurse?
I'm a nursing student.
A nursing student.
I used to have a good career, and then I got tired of having all that money, so I thought I'd go into nursing.
Oh, geez. Could you send some of that money over here or something?
Yeah, I don't have it now. I'm in school.
and you went to do some nurse training, I guess, overseas in another country.
Yes, I was looking for a volunteer opportunity just because there's a long gap between when I last did my hospital time here in Calgary and when I next do it in September. And I thought, well, it'd be good if I could go to some country where I could sort of brush up on my skills and maybe help them out at the same time.
So you ended up actually pretty far from home. You ended up in Ghana.
Say what?
Well, I'd explored some opportunities. There was a poster up at school that said that they were looking for students in Sri Lanka. And when I checked that out, they said, oh, actually, yeah, we could use nursing students here, but you're not allowed to do anything. All you can do is observe. And I thought, well, that's not what I want. So I checked around with a different organization, and they said, oh, yes, we have opportunities in Ghana where they don't have any laws around what you can and can't do. And I thought, excellent.
So you should get that Mr. Burns thing going on. Excellent. Oh, perfect. So describe to us and our audience, what was it like to be an atheist nurse in Ghana?
Well, it didn't take long to... because religion is such a big thing in Ghana. I had no idea. I did all my homework online ahead of time. I looked it up to see what's going on in Ghana right now. Are they a stable country? Are they a Christian country? What are they, right? And so I did all my homework, and I saw they're about 78 to 80% Christian, and I thought, oh, okay, so I made some assumptions that being a Christian country might be something like the United States or Canada. Mm-hmm. And right away, that's not the case. Like, it was much more like, because I grew up in Libya, so I'm very familiar with growing up in a Muslim culture and with the mosque that calls to prayer all the time and that sort of thing. And to go there, that was exactly what it was like. It was prayers and sermons over the radio, over loudspeakers. You know how you might see the Google Maps car go by, and they've got 1 million cameras on it as they're taking pictures everywhere they go, or worse, the parking lot guys going by with all their cameras. And they have people, just regular Joes like you and me, that would be driving around with all these loudspeakers, blasting sermons and religious services and whatnot on their cars, just because that's what they want to do. And everybody's car has got Jesus Lives and Pray for Jesus and all that stuff on it. And right away, like on my second day of volunteering, the nurse manager comes in and he said something that he'd heard, and he says, so what religion are you? Are you Christian? And I said, no. And he said, oh, are you Muslim then? And I said, well, no. And he's trying to stay away from the topic altogether. And he said, well, what are you then? So I thought, well, I'm just going to come out with it. I'm at the hospital. It should be okay. We are nurses. We should be able to be professional. And I said, I'm an atheist. Well, the word to them is so foreign, they don't even know the word atheist. How can you possibly be without God? Like when I explained and theist and meaning without God, he wouldn't talk to me then for the rest of my time there.
The power of Christ compels you!
Wow. That's, well, you think that religion is in your face in a country like in the U.S., but my God.
Were you actively shunned if you passed in the hallway or in social situations? I mean, were you totally cut out, like you didn't exist, or was that too extreme?
By him, I was. He's the only one that knew. Anyone else it never really came up with anyone else. I had one of the nurses that was sort of training me one day, and she was super friendly. And every day at the hospital there was a church service in the main foyer. And because it's so hot there's the walls, the windows are all open all the time. There's no air conditioning or anything. So anywhere in the hospital you can hear the church service, and you can hear. It's exactly like you see on TV with the wild gestures and the people screaming amen and the singing and the tambourines and so anyways, one day when she was training me, she asked me did I want to go to church with her, and I said and she goes, you're a Christian, aren't you? And she goes, come on, let's go. And I thought, oh, thank God I didn't have to actually answer that.
Wow.
So I just went with her, and it was interesting to observe. And it was good to go and see how they do things there. But I didn't want to tell her because she was being helpful in training me. Unlike the nurse manager who instantly shunned me, instantly cut me off. That day when I told him, he left me standing there in the hallway the entire day. Like every time I tried to catch him, oh, Henry, oh, hey, oh, every time he walked by, and he wouldn't even look at me. And so I thought, I'm not telling anybody else.
Damn.
Probably a smart move.
Yeah.
Holy jeez. I mean, I was well. First of all, we know that in Africa, Christian missionaries have been pounding Bibles into the head of the populace for a long time now. But I also get the impression that in some of these countries, Ghana, Nigeria, some of these countries, it's almost an industry. They try to make yourself a louder priest than the other one, so you can build a congregation, so you can have people donating money. I mean, you see these stories coming out of Africa on a regular basis. Was that your experience? Is that something you saw over there?
It was just everywhere, and everybody seemed to think that they were authorized to be some sort of preacher. We'd go, my coordinator would take me to places, and there'd be people preaching to us on their sort of version of a bus. There'd be people preaching to us in the stores and in the malls and on the streets, and it was astounding. When I first got there, too, the house that I stayed with a host family, and the coordinator and I had a good conversation before I even got there, and she'd asked me the same questions. Are you a Christian? And I said, no. And she goes, what do you believe in? She was just absolutely gobsmacked that there was such a thing. Like, how could you not believe in a God? And so anyway, she warned me that the host family, that the father was a pastor at a Presbyterian church.
Wow.
Where can you pick him?
And unlike Randy, I'm not going to burst into flames at the very thought. And I said, no, it's okay. I can be totally respectful, and I won't go to church with anybody, but I can be totally respectful. Well, right away from the minute I got there, the pastor's wife had to ask me, are you Christian? And, well, what are you then? Well, and she also had never heard the word atheist, and it was just astounding how much pressure there was. Had you ever been to church? Have you even heard of the Bible? Have you gone to Sunday school? And then the next day when her husband was home, it started all over again. And I thought, I'm going to have to jump off a bridge before I go home.
We're glad we didn't.
So the people were more astounded than they were hostile to you.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. So you didn't experience any hostility. It was just bewilderment that you could actually exist on this earth without believing in God.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Christians over there kind of see you maybe as a pet project, their own little mission to convert you to Christianity at that point?
I'm sure of it. The pastor's son, he was 29 years old. He came to my bedroom door one night, and I heard the knock on the door, and I assumed it was the wife. The pastor's wife. And so I opened the door, and much to my surprise, there's the pastor's son. And so we were talking, but of course you can't leave doors open there because of the mosquitoes. You have to close the door. And so he asked if he could come in, and I thought, this is strange, because where I come from, men don't go into women's bedrooms. But, he's a pastor's son, so he's probably just doing his friendly thing and welcome to the flock.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah, it was my first mistake, because now he's in my room. And now he's doing the exact same thing. Well, I hear you don't believe in God. And I thought, oh, kill me now. And, well, why don't you believe in God? And have you heard of the Bible? Have you? And I told him, yes, I've heard of the Bible. I've been to church. I was baptized at one time in my life. I've been to church lots of times, Sunday school. I know of the Bible. I know. It's not that I don't know any better. I know very well. And I said, look, I don't come here and try to push my beliefs on you, because that would be offensive, right? And he didn't get the hint. He just plowed on.
I think, had I been in that situation, I think I would have went with it. Who is this? Jeebus? What do you call that? I just would have just completely went with it like I'm some alien from outer space who's never heard of Jesus, right? Because then you can ask all the atheist questions and see them squirm.
Yeah, but then you're in the host country and you're a guest, so you don't know how far you can go.
Well, I didn't say be.
No, I'm just saying. You're in you're in a strange, not a strange, but you're in an uncomfortable situation, and you don't want to make it worse.
I just know I would have paid $100 to see Randy there with me in that room.
He would have burst into flames.
Oh, I would pay, I don't know, X amount of money to see that happen.
Well, now that you've done Ghana, you can come to Abbotsford, because there's really very little difference, and you've already had the practice. So you and Randy, come on, we'll welcome you.
Oh no!
All right, so okay, so he's done trying to preach to you. At some point, you realize he's not even listening to you. He's just doing his spiel, essentially, and then what?
It took 2 hours.
Oh my goodness!
To get him out of the room, and to convince him that I am as firm in my belief as he is in his, and trying to do it tactfully, right, and not endanger myself, because you never know. That's one topic that people get excited about, right?
Yes.
So you don't really want to piss them off or anything.
So how did he treat you for the rest of the visit?
He was actually good to me for the rest of the visit, but he came to my room several times after that, and I thought, oh, here we go again. He's going to start again. And he left it alone, but he was in my room way too often, and he still phones me.
Oh,
and I think,
really?
No. So to your question, I honestly think that he sees me as a pet project, as somebody that he could save from myself.
Yeah.
Well, at least we know that when they do something like that, it's not out of malice. They're actually genuinely concerned. I mean, they're completely wrong in their thinking, but they're actually genuinely concerned about her, about Rhonda in this case, right? So
yeah,
at least there's no evil thoughts behind it. He's not trying to scam you. He's just trying to bring you to the loving fold of Jeebus.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you've had the son and the wife. Did you actually have to go through the rest of the family too? How many preachers do they have in this family?
Well, just because the son was a Sunday school teacher too, so I guess that's why he took it upon himself. But I went through the whole the schmaz with the pastor too.
Oh, bring out the big guns, huh?
Yeah.
And how did that go?
Oh, that had to be painful.
Oh, by the time I came back, I thought, if I hear one more time about, have you heard about the Lord? And I was thinking I can really identify even more with Randy now, because I was thinking if I just had a gun in my bag, I might have, I don't know, kill myself or just fire one through the roof to get some attention. I don't know.
You know what? One line I personally use when I get a Christian who's very insistent like that, I said, you guys are offering me salvation, but the Indonesian pygmy god Tiki Kana offers me salvation and a pig. Can you guys top that? Make it a bargain thing, make it a selling thing, right? And of course, you just lose completely at that point, right? Oh, okay, so the big pastor comes in, and then how was the rest of your stay? How long did you stay there, by the way?
I was there 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, yeah. So was this like day 3 or day 4? They were just going at it one a day. They were going to try to convince the atheist to become a Christian.
Right from the first minute.
Oh,
as soon as the coordinator dropped me off and left, boom, it started.
Did you have the phone number for that coordinator?
She's here in Canada now. Actually, she's attending the University of Brandon.
Really?
Okay, so how did the rest of your 2 weeks trip there, or how do I call this, her studies in Ghana, how did that go?
The rest of it went all right. There was religion around me all the time. Like I said, there was blasting on the radios and whatnot. No one at work except that nurse manager, I think, knew. Oh, actually, on my second last day, the nurses there were asking me, so what church do you go to? And I said, I don't. And by that time, I'd made friends with them on the ward that I was working on. And they said, what do you mean? They had to pick their jaws up off the desk, right? What? What do you mean you don't go to church? And I said, I don't go to church. Well, don't you believe in God? No, I don't believe in God. Well, what do you believe in then? And I said, I believe in love and kindness and being good to each other and doing the right thing. But I don't believe in a God.
That's a fine answer.
And after, so some patient came in, was admitted, so we got busy. And then as soon as she had a moment, one of the nurses came over to me and she grabs me by the arms and she's like, "You have to tell me, how could you not believe?"
Wow.
Oh, no. And did you have to tell her? What did you answer that question?
I said, well, I can think of lots of reasons, and I said, I don't want to offend you. I said, you're strong in your belief, and that's good for you. I said, I don't want to offend you with all the things that I see as evidence for why there's nothing to believe. Well, not that you can prove nothing, right? But lots of reasons to believe, to not believe. And then we got busy again, so thankfully the topic got dropped, and then the end of the day came and it didn't come back up again. So I was like, oh, thank goodness.
I'm really ignorant about this, Rhonda. Are there any active atheist groups at all? Is there anything oppressive in Ghana about being an atheist at all? It sounds as though the people were very friendly and didn't attempt to. They
weren't violent.
Yeah. So what is the climate generally in the country toward atheists or people who aren't Christian?
Well, they didn't frighten me too much. And I think it's partly because they just saw me as some weird foreigner, because as it was, a lot of them had never even seen a white person before, let alone a white woman wearing pants, because women don't wear pants in Ghana. So everything about me was just weird. So maybe they...
So you were just a total bewilderment to everybody, so they just took that as part of your persona.
Yes. But then one night, so in my first couple of days, and I was having such a hard time feeling, especially with the discrimination that I had faced from the nurse manager. And one of the professors that I have here in Calgary, she is from Ghana, and she was going to be in Ghana at the same time as I was, but it turned out we were in different cities. And she said, I'd emailed her and I'd asked her, did she have some ideas? Is there, some little magic ways that kind of loosen people up over here? Like, am I doing something wrong? Because culturally, I think I'm doing all the right things, but maybe in their culture, I'm just coming across as a big schmuck, right? And she said she had a friend of hers in the same city I was in Kumasi, who would be very happy to help me out, so I should connect with him. So I did, and like drinking over there is considered to be taboo, because if you are truly Christian, you do not poison your body with any of those things. You don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't. But it's funny, I sure saw a lot of bars around for something that was so taboo. But anyways, so this guy and we connected by email, and he came to pick me up, and he brought a friend with him, and I instantly thought, uh-oh. I'm getting into a car with two strange men after confessing to my professor that I was an atheist.
Houston, we have a problem.
Maybe this wasn't such a good idea, but they picked me up and they took me to a bar and they bought me a beer, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so nice. And the one guy, he was talking about atheism in Ghana, saying that it was so unusual that if somebody was an atheist, it would be a very, very bad idea for them to actually say those words to anybody. He said they don't know what to think of someone who is enlightened like you. And I thought, and he does go to church in that. And I thought, oh, by the use of the word enlightened, it made me think that he's an atheist too. He just does not dare say that.
Yeah, he's in the closet.
He's in the closet, yeah.
So the fact that you were a stranger and a bit of a novelty and they didn't really know what to think about you kind of kept you safe in that sense.
Yes, I think so. Because it sure seemed to me that after what he had said, that if you were a Ghanaian, you would not dare confess that you didn't believe in all of this.
They were probably glad. They knew in 2 weeks they were going to get rid of you, so you couldn't convert enough people to atheism in 2 weeks. So I guess that amount of time you were okay as well.
Yeah, they might have seen me as more dangerous if I was going to be there longer.
Can you describe Ghana? I mean, we all have an idea of Ghana. We think of it as a third world country, but I mean, how bad really is it down there?
It's definitely a third world country. They have. If you've been to Mexico, there's places that look a lot like that, with the slums, with the just old sheds with whatever stuff they could find to cobble together to sort of create four walls and a roof, and garbage everywhere, in every little bush beside the road, and traffic everywhere, just chaos and pollution and filth and I don't mean to diss the country. Some of the people were super friendly and took, really good care of me. But I was quite astounded to see how poor the people actually were. And the roadside stalls, like they do have a couple of grocery stores, but for the most part, people buy at roadside stalls. And one day the fridge at the host family's house had stopped working. And it had stopped working about 6 weeks before. And so we never had cold food. It was always hot food. And it's already hotter than Hades in there. And here we were eating hot food all the time. But
what were the conditions like in the hospital medically?
Yeah,
what kind of care were the patients able to get?
It was amazing that people survived the hospital.
Oh,
it was amazing in my opinion. What the hell's with all my phones?
Answer that.
I'm just gonna. All right.
And again, I'll go back to Nancy's comment that if you come to Abbotsford, apparently surviving the hospital here is a bit of a wonder too. So.
Well, most of the rooms at the hospital had no running water. So the ward that I worked on had no running water.
Oh. How do you keep things clean without running water?
They don't.
You don't. No. And so all of the equipment looked like it had gotten thrown out after the First World War. It was just absolutely substandard, and it was just dreadful. Their idea of mopping the floor. So there was no. It wasn't easy for patients to get to the washroom or anything. So they'd keep a bucket under their bed, and then if they needed to urinate, they'd get off the bed and they'd urinate right there beside the bed into the bucket. And if people didn't have family to come and clean out the bucket for them, then later on when they had to throw up, they threw up in the same bucket.
Oh.
And the ceilings were so water damaged that there was paint peeling off the ceilings and chunks of wood and mold falling out of the ceilings over top of the patient beds.
Oh,
it was just astounding that anyone survives the hospital. And so one time I saw somebody trying to wash the floors. And so the floors have everything on them, urine, blood, bugs, you name it. And what they do is they take like a pop bottle full of a little bit of soapy water and they just kind of splash it all around the floor and then use this mop to just kind of smudge it around.
Ew.
But
then they'd leave used needles and stuff on the floor. They'd throw it in the garbage, not a sharps container, in the garbage. And they'd miss because the garbage is overflowing full, and then it would be on the floor. And I almost wiped out on one. So from then on, I had gloves on, and I was picking them up and putting them in the right container. And even the patients would be looking at me like, "Ew, you picked something up off the floor?" And even the nurses gave me hell for that. And I said, "Yeah, but you guys are walking around here in flip-flops. You don't need some used needle piercing your heel or something. This stuff needs to get off the floor."
Wow.
But that's accepted as normal there, I guess.
Oh, totally normal. Yeah. And then so because of the lack of refrigeration in the house, one day the pastor's wife had given me some watermelon after work, and even though it was warm, it was so good because I was so hot, and it was so nice to have some watermelon. And the next day when we were out and about, she was a recipient of those Christmas child boxes. You know, those shoe boxes that you can fill up at Christmas time and ship away to third world countries. She was a recipient of about 1,000 of those. So that was exciting to go to her warehouse, and she and her church group were going to be distributing those boxes. So they were having a meeting. And so I got to see all these boxes on the receiving end, which was cool. But anyways, on the way back to the house, she said, "You liked that watermelon yesterday, let's get some more." So we stopped at a roadside stand, and it's sold already cut, which makes sense because you don't have a fridge that works, but it's covered in flies.
Yeah.
And so it's not much surprise when I came home from Ghana to discover I had worms.
Oh.
Oh.
Easily treated, or?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
No, I
It's an experience. I would imagine that you left, with a brave spirit, and you came back knowledgeable and even braver than you thought you were capable of. So, I'm glad you went. I'm glad you sound like the kind of person who makes the most of any experience that you have, and we appreciate, hearing, how things are when we're so. This is normal to us, and
we're extremely privileged compared to a place.
Yeah.
Which you would think if they're so Christian, you'd think Jesus would come down and help them a bit.
I'm glad you just survived the trip, so you could tell the tale.
Yeah.
Me too. Well, it was interesting on the very last day, and the pastor's wife was making one last pitch for why don't you believe and help me understand, and I said I don't want to offend you with my thoughts and whatnot, and she said no, I won't be offended. I'm just really curious. I'd really like to know, and I asked her some questions like, if there really is a God, then how is it that, say, people in first world countries, that there are first world countries and that there are third world countries like Ghana? Why is it that, you have much more Christianity, much more faithful people here than, say, where I come from? Why is it that where I come from is much better off than here? And she says, it's just because we are like children. Where you come from, you're the older child, and here in Ghana, we're the younger child, and so we're still developing. And I thought, no, Ghana's got way more history than Canada does.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't say that.
Wow.
So and another thing was, I said that I believed that Christianity, well, not just Christianity, but any religion was the single number one reason why women are not equal to men. Because men in the Bible, for example, were, the bigger, more powerful, therefore they had dominion over everything. And I said that just does not fit with my beliefs, my values. And she said that she agreed with that, and that it makes God sad because it wasn't supposed to be like that. And I thought, but you're contradicting yourself.
It makes God sad, but he won't do anything to change it.
No.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I know you had a very short stay, 2 weeks, although it must have been a hell of a 2 week. But did you ever get a glimpse into the politics of the region?
No, I didn't. Apparently there was a king in the region. So I was in Kumasi, which is in the center of Ghana. And apparently there's an Ashtani king that lives in the region, actually not that far away from where I was staying. But I didn't hear anything at all. All I heard was religion. And it was interesting when I was talking with nurses or my coordinator about stuff about Canada, and I talk about Trump or the weather, and they had not a clue. And I told them I grew up in Libya. Where's that? Oh my goodness, that's 2 countries away. Why don't you know where that is?
Wow.
It was really interesting how different their knowledge base was.
Yeah, this is the fruit of so much investment from the Christian church into Africa. They know they're losing the battle here in North America, and what you would consider the first world. So they're heavily investing in the third world, so they can stay relevant somehow.
Are the schools public schools, or are they run by the churches? Or did you have a chance to find out?
I don't know. I never came across any.
Because I just wonder, since they were so they weren't knowledgeable about the world, I just wondered whether or not the schools were also religiously based.
Well, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, look at the Americans right across the border. They don't know much outside of America. I mean, their education is very centric to the States, right? So maybe Ghana's got something similar to that. Did you happen to stumble upon some of the younger generations, the kids?
Yes, I did. I would see them in the streets, and the coordinator had warned me that a lot of them would never have seen a white person before. And there's a word for white person. It's not meant to be offensive. It's just a matter of fact. It's white person. And it's Obruni. And so she said to be prepared to hear kids say that word. And everybody said that word, and got me thinking, maybe there's some offense intended there. But so I'd be driving by in the taxi, and I'd see kids just astounded, with eyes wide open, and then somebody else would be yelling, "Oh, Bruni, oh, Bruni, oh, Bruni!" And then I'd wave at them, and they'd be just so, "Oh, wow, she waved at me too."
Did you do the royal wave? Rhonda, well, we're glad you're back. Quick question: would you do it again?
I would not do it again, but that said, I'm not sorry I went. I am glad I went. I went for a nursing experience, and I was hoping to be more helpful there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get quite as much nursing experience. I did get time in surgery, which was fantastic. I really wanted that. And I did get some nursing experience, and I got a whole bunch of other experience. And I'm still glad that I went.
Wow. And I guess you're keeping tab, or you're keeping in touch with some of the people trying to convert you, I guess, still?
I don't even know what to say to them anymore. It's, well, why are you contacting me? Like, you're very nice and stuff. But then again, is it that nice to cram your views down someone else's throat day after day after day?
Are they doing this via email?
They're phoning me.
Oh, they're phoning you. Because if they're doing this by email, just pass it over to Randy. He could just pretend to be you, and he's just going to go to town on them.
Yeah, but I think, Kevin, I think it's what you were saying before. That's their culture. They're doing it because they feel as though they're doing her a kindness and saving her and opening up her eyes to all the revelations of the Bible.
Exactly.
And it's difficult since she's the first one. It might be easier for the second atheist, whoever goes over there. Who knows?
Yeah,
or worse.
Rhonda was making friends with some of the staff.
Yeah.
So had she managed to stay a bit longer, and then they discover it's hard to badmouth an atheist when you actually know him as a good person, right?
Yeah.
So Rhonda had already. So even if somebody's bashing atheists now, they're probably still talking about you over there. Remember that old Bruni person? Oh yeah, she didn't believe in God at all.
Oh, you are the stuff that legends are made of at this point.
Well, they're probably confused, right? Because how could she possibly not believe in God but otherwise seem like a good person? Because she came over here to help.
See, they're going to start a rumor. That's what happens. You turn white when you don't believe in God.
Well, that's what they'll tell the kids, right?
Better believe in Jesus or you'll turn white.
Bad times are upon you.
Oh, yeah. Rhonda, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your story. I sure hope it helps a lot of people out there. And goodness gracious, well, what else can you say? I mean, you're a tough cookie.
Sorry?
You're a tough cookie.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, let us know your next adventure. You've always got a spot on our podcast with us anytime.
I almost want to go to Ghana now just to try it.
He wants to get worms.
No, not the watermelon. I'm not. I love watermelon, but I won't. I'll stop there.
Well, and everything, all the food comes from the local market. So whether you're buying pineapple or watermelon or meat or fish or rice, everything has already been shit on by umpteen million flies.
All right. Well, let's go to the next country next door.
I was texting my daughter from over there, and I said, I just want to come home and eat something that hasn't been shit on.
The only thing you can do is cook the heck out of it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and even then.
Even then, sterile shit is still shit.
Yeah.
Well.
It was good tasting food, though. I mean, she was an amazing cook. It was good food.
Just full of shit.
It's no flavor I couldn't quite put my finger on. That's the worm. Rhonda, thank you so much for your time. But before I let you go, can I get you to say, hi, I'm Rhonda Tyson, and I took a left at the valley.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Tyson, and I took a left at the valley.
And that was Rhonda Tyson. What a story, huh?
Is she an angel or what?
She's cool.
Part of me so wanted to be there instead of her, but then I'm thinking of the watermelons and the bugs, and I'm thinking, no,
man.
no,
Yeah,
the worms.
Actually, we very seldom have anybody as a guest that tells their personal experiences that way. So we should have more. She's really something.
We could do a show with you forever, and you'd be telling us about the time.
You've been around forever.
Yeah, the times you build the pyramids and the times you patch a hole in the Great Wall. And so, anyway, food for thought for sure about this woman, and and I find it amazing to know that she's still being called today. And some people from God are calling her, making her a little pet project.
Kind of cool.
I guess so. I mean, I don't know.
Would you go, Kevin? Would you spend 2 weeks at a country like Ghana? If not Ghana, would you go?
Well, The poverty does not disturb me too much, or the fact that they're Christians. The heat would just kill me right there.
Oh, okay.
I could not tolerate the heat.
And eating the food and getting worms. I don't know.
too.
There's just something
That'd
about
be
that.
a bit of an issue too. But if it wasn't for that, I would totally try that experience.
Yeah.
And of course, I'd be way more aggressive than she is. Oh, you don't know what an atheist is? Come down here, boy. Let me tell you a story.
No, I think she handled it well.
Absolutely. So, thank you so much for her and her excellent husband as well, Randy.
Absolutely.
It's always great to hear from them. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us on the show. And you can always follow us at leftofthevalley.com. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, at LETV Podcast. And you can send us an email at leftatvalley@outlook.com. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes. We'd appreciate that. It helps other people find the show. Coming up, next week we'll have Marissa on. We'll be talking about transgender people.
So excited.
After that, we'll have Karen Garst, the author, talking about women in atheism and how they got out. And we'll also have our friend, Daryl Ray's friend, Veronica Drance. We'll be talking about assigning gender at the birth. And in September, we'll have our old friend Jonathan Baker is coming back to talk about the Paris Accord. And after that, of course, we just said Del Rey, old friend Del Rey, recovering from religion, will be coming with us to join us. On the 16th, we'll be talking to Michael Sparks about how Canadians felt on the whole Bernie Sanders incident.
Oh, we loved him.
Wow. That would be very interesting. And of course, we'll cap up the end of the month on the 23rd with our old friend Arn Raw will return.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can't wait for Arn.
We have what a strong lineup we've got.
And we're not done. And of course, we'll have at the end of the month the legendary Jerry Coyne to talk about evolution. So that's what we got so far. So we got a great couple months.
Yep.
So yes, just stay tuned. Anything else I need to say?
No.
Read Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Give it up with Harry Potter.
Watch Cosmos.
Yes. And feel free to follow our friend Tyler and Kevin on So You Think You're a Skeptic on Facebook. I'll be live and I'll be joining them, and hopefully I don't ruin the show. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time.
You can bet your last dollar I'll be working hard fighting this problem. Religion is a disease, it comes from culture, only true on a regional scale. Science is universal. For you to say that Horus isn't real, but Jesus is, or Zeus, Thor, Mithra, Vishnu, you don't believe in them. I think the reason is apparent. You do what you're told and believe in the God assigned by your parents. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. Atheist. I'm an atheist. Atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. Now let me take a sec. Don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that thousands of children are raped by priests, and since they're holy men of God, they get away scot-free. And the Pope does his very best to keep it on the hush. Don't wanna affect business, he loves money too much. We know that they love the kids, but how the fuck can we protect them while they planning to molest them? We teaching them to respect them.
Fuck that.
The system is broke down, working backwards, and the only action or tactic I plan to practice now is to attack them. The parties of God's hands are bloodstained, millions of murders by believers, and they're all in God's name. And let me take a sec, don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that many atheists are told to be quiet. You're not alone, speak your mind, time to let it be known. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed.